There we go. So I am here, cameras on, sounds on, it's set up correctly, and we're just waiting for some people to join me. I'm Peter Lemieux, going to be talking about dwelling and homeowner policies. So hopefully we captured some people, maybe half the ones who started off when I couldn't get my camera working. So we'll wait till some people start showing up. Hello, hello, hello. I'm Peter Lemieux. I'm going to talk about dwelling policies and homeowner policies, and there's been a bit of a technical mix-up caused by me. I didn't set my camera up correctly. I had to cancel the class, rewrite it, open it, get the camera set up. But I'm here finally, and we're going to do this. We're just waiting for some people to figure it out and come and join me. So that's what we're going to do. So this is going to be dwelling policies and homeowners, and it's going to be live. I'm waiting for some people who tried to come in earlier, but I kind of messed this whole thing up with technology. But I'm here, and we're going to get this done. Hello, welcome, welcome. This is going to be a dwelling policies and homeowners policy. So that's what we're going to be trying to do. My name is Peter Lemieux. I'm just waiting a few more minutes so a couple of people can find me since I kind of messed this up. If you think I don't know what I'm doing, you would probably be correct. There we go. So I see we got a few people here, and forgive me, my technology skills will improve as I grow up and learn, but I got this figured out. Folks, I'm going to be talking in a live class, a presentation on dwelling and homeowner policies. To do this today, I have got some slides, which maybe can help you understand what I'm saying. But more importantly, the reason I use the slides in a live presentation is to make sure I stay on course and don't wander into the woods with little side stories and things like that. So let me open up the slideshow and bring that in. Okay. There we go. You got me in a box, dwelling and homeowner policies. That's what we're going to talk about. Quick introduction. First of all, I want to apologize for being late. It was a mistake I made. I didn't set my camera up correctly. And so, anyways, I fixed it. That's the good news. My name is Peter Lemieux. I've been in the insurance business for over 50 years. And the last 15 years or so, I've been helping people pass tests, which is where I met Melissa Dillon, our insurance exam queen. Okay. And we became friends, and I asked her if I could help her in her business. And she asked me to do some live classes. So I'm doing a live class today on dwelling policies and homeowner policies. And we are going to make this work. Let me just. All right. First thing I'm going to show you is how to find me on Melissa's website. You go on her YouTube website, Insurance Exam Queen on YouTube. You will see two boxes. One says subscribe and one says join. If you click on join, you will have the option of looking at all of my classes for life and health insurance. which probably none of you are interested in because you're studying property and casualty. That's one way to find me. Um, so what we want to talk about first is a dwelling policy. There's two sides to the presentation today. One is the big picture, just to kind of get you familiar with what happens in the big picture. But there's another part to the presentation that's filled with details, what's covered, what's not covered, and things like that. So what I want to encourage you to do is to take notes. But when we get to the detailed slides, to probably the easiest way to do it would be to take a picture or a screenshot of that slide and convert that information into flashcards, because that's stuff you really want to memorize or get as close to memorizing as possible. The initial slides are not like that. This is just big picture stuff. As we go along, I will try to explain all of that to you. Dwelling policies originally were written for landlords. Imagine you own a property and you've got tenants in it and they pay you rent. There's no need to have contents coverage because there's none of your stuff in that building. It's all the tenant's stuff. So if they want that covered, they will buy a renter's policy. You don't cover that. Also, there's no liability on these policies. If you want liability, you have to buy it separately. Okay. So no contents, no liability is the way it starts off with these policies. Now, to be eligible to get a dwelling policies, we can cover up to 4 units with 5 roomers per unit. Okay, that's not 5 total. So you can have a couple of families in there. It can be the owner can live there or not and get the dwelling policy. You can insure it under construction. Mobile homes can be included if it's permanently located on a private lot. Incidental businesses are allowed. By that, I mean we cannot have it set up where you set up a hairdressing parlor and there's signs out front and people come in there as a hairdressing parlor. That's not incidental. If you live there and you have one room in there with a chair and you do a little bit of hairdressing on the side, no signs outside, that would be okay. So when it's incidental, it's just something you do. It's not really like open to the public. Those are allowed. Now, what we're going to do with the dwelling policy is we have to learn 3 types of dwelling policies. That's all. That's all. And I'm going to teach them in what I call my pizza story. Okay. You have a DP1, dwelling policy 1, which is called basic, DP2, which is called broad, and DP3, which is called special. If you're afraid you won't remember that, that's information you would put on flashcards. Okay. I didn't do it that way for this information. I did use flashcards, but I actually had 3 separate sheets of paper. DP1 basic, DP2 broad, DP3 special. And then I would put the details of those policies on 3 separate sheets of paper so I wouldn't mix them up. I actually had them on different sheets of paper. Again, you guys are going to study the way that works for you. Now, the big dwelling policy 1, the lowest level of coverage you can buy on a residence is only covers 3 perils. You can't get a policy with less coverage than this. Therefore, it's going to be the least expensive because it covers the least. It only covers fire, lightning, and internal explosion. Anything else you can think of, burglary, ice, just make up a whole bunch, wind damage, things like that, they're not covered. Just 3 basic coverage. You should know fire, lightning, internal explosion. Now, my friends, that means any policy we're going to look at going forward, dwelling, and homeowners has these three perils. These three perils are on, if they're on the basic, they're going to be on every single policy. Also, this is the only policy I'm going to discuss with you that insures the dwelling on actual cash value, not replacement cost. So whatever it costs to replace the house is irrelevant. They're going to give you actual cash value, which is what you paid for it in the beginning. Not very good coverage. This is a kind of stripped down policy for landlords who, I don't know why people would buy this, but there are always people who say to their agent, I don't care about the coverage, give me the cheapest policy. This is it. Okay, this is the DP1. Now, what happens in the DP1, I like to describe this as, well, let me go back one. To me, the DP1 is like a basic pizza. It's just an 8-inch round pizza with cheese and sauce, and that's it. There's nothing extra. But if you want more, you can do it by getting extended coverage endorsements. Imagine pizza. This is like adding pepperoni, sausage, and things like that. Extended coverage endorsement number 1 on this basic policy gives us 6 new perils. 6 new perils. So what you have here, windstorm, aircraft, riot and civil commotion, volcanic eruption, explosion, and smoke. These are the 6 new perils you get when you add extended coverage option 1. So this would be like adding extra things on your little pizza, okay? If you want to remember these, this would be a good thing to put on a flashcard. So you know what is extended, what 6 perils do we add when we on the basic policy. Also, you can get extended coverage option 2, which increases our perils to an additional 8. It's the 6 I just showed you, plus vandalism and malicious mischief. So let me summarize. This DP1, which covers only 3 perils, if you go and add option 1 and 2, you'll end up with 11 perils. I get 6 more with the option 1 and 2 more with the option 2. But it's still actual cash value. And you're going to see, even with these extended options, there are still a lot of things not covered. It's very important before I proceed that I want you to understand the dwelling policy 1, basic policy, all our other policies build on this. It's just got 3 perils. You can add it up to another 6 and then another 2 if you buy extended coverage options. But it's still only a few perils, even though it sounds like a lot, it's not, and it's actual cash value. So what's going to happen now is we're going to summarize it. The dwelling policy 1 is the 8-inch cheese pizza. Extra toppings can be added for an extra cost. Now, having understood that, we want to go, okay, Peter, what do I get with the dwelling policy 2? With the dwelling policy 2, I get all of the DP1 with all of the extended coverage. It's got 11 perils, but they add broad form perils. And you're going to find out broad form perils are really the key perils that we get on dwelling policies and homeowner policies. Okay, so this kicks it up to far better coverage. And we now put replacement cost on the dwelling. I want to tell you how important it is to have replacement cost on the dwelling. Imagine you have damage to your roof and you need a new roof. If that roof's 10 years old, on actual cash value, what we had in the DP1, they're going to pay you what that roof is worth with depreciation. let's just use a round number of it's $10,000 for a new roof, but because it's 10 years old, the insurance company gives you $3,000. Where can you buy a new roof for $3,000? Actual cash value doesn't cut it. But if I have replacement costs, they're going to replace that roof with today's dollars. So graduating from that actual cash value to dwelling policy is really, really a big deal. Okay. So we kick it up a notch with a lot more coverage that was broad form perils. So, what are the broad form perils? Please notice on the left hand side of this slide, there is an acronym that we've created called BB BICE Golf. That is an important acronym because these broad form perils are on all of the policies going forward, DP3 and all our homeowners. You get not just the extended coverage and the coverage on the DP2. I mean, the DP1, which is just extended coverages. But when we get to the two, we include BB BICE Golf. Look at this: burglary, bursting and frozen pipes, breaking of water heaters, ice, snow, weight, collapse of the building, electrical damage, glass breakage, objects falling from outside, leakage of water system, and freezing of plumbing. Allow me to go back, and what I want to include is these two slides you should take a picture of, because these BB BICE Golf perils make the policy so much different than that little DP1. Okay, it kicks it up to pretty decent coverage. Okay, and you're going to see these broad form perils carrying forward. So it is important to learn BB BICE Golf and kind of have an idea what's covered here. None of these perils were covered on the DP1. You've bought plus replacement costs. This is by far a better policy than the DP1. I want to be clear. We're still talking about DP, dwelling policies for landlords. Okay? These policies are designed primarily for landlords. And allow me to say this: landlords are really interested in two coverages primarily. They want the building covered because if they lose the building, they lose their income, right? So they want the building covered. If it gets damaged, they want it replaced as quickly as possible. This policy is far better than the DP1. But also, they want covered the loss of rent. If I have these renters paying me $5,000 a month and they can't live there anymore, I not only lost the house, but I lost the rental income. We can get that on the DP2. Okay, let's go forward, but I'm just trying to make sense of this. DP1 and DP2 slides, I hope you took pictures of. Broad form perils are BB BICE Golf. Now, broad form perils, you can also add theft for an extra charge. But to do that, the owner must be the occupant. Let me explain this. We're not going to cover theft of your tenant's properties. Okay, that's not you. You're the owner of the building. However, if you actually live there, okay, and you get your stuff stolen, you might want to add theft. I see people are asking, can you see the comments? I can, Pilot J, but I was ignoring them. So don't take it personal. Peter, you probably don't remember me, but I was in your life and health course last October. I purchased the videos from you. Currently working on P&C. Well, hi, Tasha. Welcome back. Andrew, I passed my test a week ago. Today, you got this. Those Andrew's comments, I hope, are to the class and not me. Maybe it's for me. Who knows? Is theft included in dwelling policies? Memorize the. No, here's where you get theft. You can add theft not on the DP1, but if you add it here on the DP2, it's for an extra charge. Okay? Now, we're not going to talk about the homeowners policies for a little bit, Pilot J, but you're right on with that. Okay. So I'm going to try to keep the ball in the fairway, keep heading on with what I want. Please remember this one. It's a common test question. These policies don't cover fish and birds. Now, we're never going to cover the tenant stuff, but you live there and you got birds and fish and they die in something. It's not going to be covered. Excuse me, trees are limited to $500 per tree. How important is that? I don't know. Put it on a flashcard so when you take your test, you'll know it. Okay. Um, Dwelling policy summary. Now, instead of an 8-inch pizza, we've graduated to a 12-inch pizza with more toppings included at the same price. So you get bigger. Remember, we're going to get replacement cost. But all this BB Bice Golf, you don't pay extra for that. The only thing I told you have to pay extra for is theft. But you get all these extra toppings included in the price. The extra toppings in the DP1, which were not very many, you had to pay extra for them. Here it all comes in the price. So I think you can appreciate that in terms of buying these policies or selling them, far better in the DP2 than the DP1. Okay? So let's move on to the DP3. Now, what happens here is a lot of people think, oh, the DP3 must be really complicated. It actually isn't. Okay, with the DP3, all perils are covered, which means we don't have to list BB Bice Golf. We cover all perils unless they happen to be excluded. So what we wrote on the slide, DP3 gets you everything. Okay, it's anything not excluded is covered on the DP3. So we don't really have to learn a lot about the DP3, but they actually cover more things than the BB Bice Golf. Now, I'm not smart enough to tell you what they are, but and you won't need to know that on the test. But the big thing about the DP3 is you don't have to really worry about it. Just know that it's all perils. Is a DP2 all perils? No, it's BB Bice Golf, right? DP1 is even less. But we get to a DP3, we've got all perils. DP3, now I imagine this to be a 16-inch pizza with all the toppings in the restaurant, one cost. You get everything. Okay? So if that's where you want to go, top shelf pizza, you're going to be buying a DP3 policy. Dwelling policies coverages. Now we're getting into an important area that you guys got to know, and this needs to be written down. I wrote this down on a piece of paper. For your test, and dwelling policies, homeowners policies is a major portion of your test. You got to know what coverage A, B, C, D are. Not are the letter, what they cover, okay? So on dwelling policies, 1, 2, and 3, A covers the dwelling. B covers other structures, unattached structures. If a garage is attached to the building, it's part of the building and covered under A. But what if it's a detached garage or a shed in the backyard? Those items are covered under B, other structures. C is contents. Now, remember in the beginning, we don't cover contents on a landlord's policy. And the DP1, 2, and 3 are all landlord policies. But sometimes the landlord lives there. There is coverage C on the policy. And if you just buy a DP policy, 1, 2, or 3, there will be no premium on contents because we're not covering them. However, if you live there and you want your contents covered, you have to pay for it. So we would put in the contents a premium showing we do have the landlord's contents covered. Okay. It may be added to protect, get this, the landlord's property. That's coverage C. Now, coverage D is for a landlord almost as important as A. Fair rental value will pay our landlord the rent he lost because the people can't live there anymore. So if you're a landlord and you're making, several $1,000s a month on rentals, this D is really something, and it comes with the policy, okay? So coverage E is called additional living expense only for the owner if they live there, kind of like contents. What additional living expense does is if you can't live there anymore, it gives you money to go stay in a hotel of, similar standards. Okay, you can't go from a simple house to uh, the Mar-Lago. Okay, they're going to pay of similar standards, but they will pay for you to be in a hotel while the house gets fixed. Only the landlord. We're not doing it for the tenants. But fair rental value is D. Additional expense for owner only is E. Let's check on something before I go on. I want to look. It looks like no more questions from you guys. So let me keep going on. No questions means you either are in the kitchen making a sandwich or we're doing okay. Let's be positive. We're doing okay. Now, what's the difference between a direct and an indirect loss? A direct loss is really kind of your stuff, right? So your building, your other structures, and your contents are all stuff that you need replaced. Please notice on this slide, other structures are covered for 10% of A. So if I have a $100,000 building, I'm only covering the garage and the shed for 10,000. But that's kind of common. The coverage B is 10% of A. So you want to know how that works. And contents, these are all direct losses. And remember, contents are just the landlord's contents. But when we get to D and E, these are indirect losses. Because what we have here is it's not stuff, but we've lost money. We've lost income. We got to have money to go live in a hotel. Those would be called indirect losses. This is primarily a property policy. It's listed under property because look at what coverage A is. It's the dwelling, it's property. A, B, and C are all stuff. D and E is money, loss of income. So we call that an indirect loss. I feel it's very important that you guys know what A, B, C, D, and E are on a dwelling policy. Now we're going to talk about exclusions. Ordinance of law. Here's what we mean by that. And by the way, I've never seen this on a test. I went years not knowing what it was, other than it's not covered. Ordinance of law is the place you live says your building is required to have sprinklers in to put out fires. You're required by law to do that. If you don't do it and you suffer a fire loss, the insurance company does not have to pay you full value because you broke the ordinance of law. That's what it means. What I just told you is not on the test. What's on the test is these are not covered. Ordinance of law, earth movement, kind of like an earthquake maybe, power failure, neglect on your part, something broke or because you didn't take care of it, it just wore out, war, nuclear hazards, obviously intentional loss. You can't burn your own building down and expect to get paid. Those are 7 exclusions on all our dwelling policies, and they shouldn't be hard to remember. But again, if you list of them, you can take a picture, find it in your text, put them on flashcards, but these are not going to be covered. Actually, they're hardly covered anywhere on the basic policy. Okay. Now, here is a terrific. I would encourage you. In fact, I'll take me off the screen. I would encourage you to take a picture of this slide because, and I'm going to give all credit to Melissa. On one slide, she has taught everything you need to know about dwelling policies. One picture. Crazy, isn't it? So let me explain it. See the little house? There's like three houses inside. There's three houses together, one in the bottom. That's our basic DP1. Okay. You can, for extra dollars, get extended coverage endorsement. One, extended coverage endorsement. Two, you get vandalism and malicious mischief. It is actual cash value and it covers, if you don't have the extra coverages, it only covers fire, lightning, and internal explosion with no coverage on trees. Whew. That's DP1 explained to you in one little picture. Now let's graduate up to a DP2. What do we get extra? All the basic perils, that means the ones in the DP1, plus BB Bice Golf. And we're now going to cover the trees for $500. Now, what do I get in the 3? Everything that's in the 2, except now we're going to cover all perils and theft. You get that with a DP3. Over on the right-hand side is our coverages, A, B, C, D, and E, all explained to us. A is dwelling, B is other structures for 10%, contents, only the landlords though. Fair rental value is listed at 20%. What we mean by that is, let's imagine a $100,000 home and I lost rent. Every month, the insurance company will pay me that rent until they've paid me $20,000, and then my coverage for D is over. Okay. Additional living expenses for you to go in a hotel is also at 20%. Now we got a $100,000 house with the shed cover for $10,000. I've never seen this on the test, but it's brilliant that Melissa put it on the slide. On a DP2 and a DP3, you are covered if you lose them both for $110,000. However, for our bottom level DP1, you can get $10,000 on the shed. But if you do, and you lose both of them totally, you're only getting $100,000. So if you lose them both, you're not getting 110 on the DP1. A lot of explanation. Folks, take a picture of this. All my yapping and explaining and teaching is done for you on this one picture. It's an awesome slide. She ought to get some sort of patent on this and sell it or something. It's a great slide. Let's try to answer some questions. You can put the answers in the chat box, or you can conscientiously object and be a real mean person, not play the game. My rental property burned to the ground. I probably need to claim on A, C, E, or F. Which one? Based on what the question says, my rental property burned to the ground. What are we going to claim on? Which coverage? Now you can claim on all your losses if you lost all of them. But what's the first one that comes to mind? Get situation. I'm looking for answers in the chat box. Don't make me feel like a dud. Somebody play the game with me. Burned to the ground. We're most interested in. Come on, guys. All right, be that way. Coverage A. Okay. We need coverage for the dwelling. Property burned to the ground. Coverage A. Try this one. I wonder if you'll answer now. I move into my rental property. I will need to add. All right, we got somebody who voted. I can't say your name. Oiltologist. Well, you and I are jiving. We're getting together. It is absolutely. If you move in, you want your contents covered, right? Coverage C. I want to add coverage to my DP1. Am I going to add broad form perils, change to all perils, extended coverage endorsements, or optional peril endorsement? What can I do to my DP1? B says A. Really messed me up when in the future. B, choose B, and then I'll say B is B. B says A. We got a C. Third grader says number 3, which is what's on the slide. So let's explain this. The only correct answer here, I'll do the slide, is the third one. Why? I can't add broad form perils to a 1. They come with a 2, okay? I can't change to all perils. That's a 3, okay? There is no such thing as an optional peril endorsement. What it's called is ECE, Extended Coverage Endorsement number 1 or Extended Coverage Endorsement number 2. That's all I can do to my dwelling policy 1. Actual cash value. Which policy has actual cash value on the dwelling? 1, 2, 3, or all of them? No idea? Actual cash value on the dwelling? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Only the DP1. 2, 3, and all our homeowners are going to be replacement cost. Only the dwelling policy 1 is actual cash value. This is how I define me, but I only am there for life and health, so you're probably not interested. But anyway, let's keep going. Let's now graduate to a homeowner's policy. The nice thing about a lot of states ask us more questions on dwelling than homeowners. I don't know how they decide that, but dwelling policy provides me with the basic idea of how these things work. So the homeowners makes more sense if I understand a dwelling policy, even though it's a little different. First of all, the homeowner's policy is not for landlords. Okay, it's for you. You own the home. Okay, so we're interested in some things that maybe not that important on the dwelling policy. The homeowner policy is also a property policy. You know, you study property and you study casualty. Casualty policies are primarily liability. You get sued. Did we have, just to see if anybody's still awake, did we have any liability provided for us on the DP dwelling policies? Was there any casualty coverage at all on that policy? And the answer is no. Tasha, I'm glad Tasha and I were friends from way back. Okay. So, anyways, there's no liability coverage on a dwelling policy. If you're afraid of getting sued by a tenant or something, you got to go and buy a separate liability policy. It doesn't go on a DP1. We're going to find out we get liability in a homeowner's policy. It's one of the differences. Okay. So let's take a look at this O policy. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of them. There's not just 3. So let's see if we can make sense. Up to 4 owner-occupied residences, my friends. That means that you have a cabin in the woods that you go to in the summertime or just go up there when you want vacation. You can put both of them on your homeowner's policies. That can be for more than one residence. Okay? No more than 2 roomers. That means you could be renting out part of your home or that cabin in the woods, but no more than 2 people in there. Okay. You can cover condos, seasonal dwellings, which kind of spoke for itself, and incidental businesses. That's the incidental business is exactly the same as it was on the dwelling policy, right? You can't have a big sign out front and say, you know, gun shop and have a whole bunch of guns for sale. That's a business, okay? There's a joke in there, but I'm not going to say it. I don't want to get political. But anyways, but could I, in one room of my house, be running a printing up stuff for people and things like that? As long as it wasn't the purpose of the house, it's incidental. We can cover. Okay. By the way, just as an aside, we don't cover your business stuff. So if you had, I don't know why I said, well, let's do the hairdresser. If you have a hairdresser and in there you have hair dryers and things like that, that's business insurance. Okay. We'll cover the building. Okay. But we don't cover business property. Just, I don't think that's important, but I will say that. The insured, this is important. Who's insured on my homeowner's policy? See, this is a dwelling policy. This isn't important because we don't insure people in a tenant policy. We don't insure the tenants. But now I'm living there and we've got to insure people. The relatives residing with me. It could be a mother-in-law, could be my cousin Eddie from Christmas vacation. But if they're actually living there, they're going to be covered. Okay. Non-residents in care of the insured who are under 24, perhaps a foreign exchange student or something like that. They will be covered. Well, Peter, what are they covered for? Well, their stuff's going to be covered, right? Their contents. And we're going to get to it in liability. If they hurt someone, we got liability coverage for them. Okay, that's why that's important. Knowing who's insured is going to weave itself in and out of some questions on homeowner policies. Now, full-time students under 24 are covered. People responsible for your animals or motorized vehicles, people who work for you taking care of your stuff. Okay, those will be, will there be another live? If the Lord lets me keep living, Susan, I will be live a few times a month. Okay. So yeah, that I can't tell you when they're going to be. Remember, Melissa has the best videos on all of this stuff in property and casualty. You're going to get all of them if you buy one of her packages. Okay. I test tomorrow. So you're here just for a tune-up, right? You're not just getting started today. Let me go back to slides. Location. The residence, other premises used by the insured as a residence. Remember the cabin in the woods, right? Premises not owned by the insured, but where the insured is living, a motel room. So what's going to be covered? Say I have a business trip, right? And I go into the motel room. We're not covering the motel. We're not going to cover the motel's beds, but all the contents that you own that you brought with you, your computer, your clothes, whatever you brought, that's going to be covered even if you're in the motel. As long as you're living there, you're the insured. Okay? The contents. That's exactly. Now, coverage forms. Oh my goodness, Peter. I only had 3 dwelling policies, but I got 6 homeowners policies. You can handle this. Let me just give you a tip. You don't have to listen to this, but this is how I learned this. When I looked at these and I got to learn them, there's only really 3 what we would call homeowners policies. The HO2, which is going to smell and taste a lot like the DP2. The HO3, which is going to smell, taste, and look a lot like the DP3. And then something new, a comprehensive HO5. If I'm going to buy homeowners policies, those are the 3 offerings my agent will give me. Because HO4 is for renters, contents. If I own a home, I'm not buying a renter's policies. If I have a condo, I'm going to go to an HO6. And if I have a historical home, I'm going to go to an HO8. But for the normal homeowner, wants his stuff covered, he's going to choose between a 2, 3, and a 5. That may help you make some sense of 6 different coverages. So let's talk about the 2. Look familiar? It's broad form perils. What's that? BB Bice Golf. We're going to have, you don't even have to talk about the dwelling because they're all replacement costs. There's no more actual cash value. The HO3 has open perils. Remember the DP3? All perils are covered. Contents are BB Bice Golf. Now, let me just summarize this. On the HO2, broad form perils. But when I go to an HO3, I got open perils on the dwelling, but my contents are still going to be covered with BB Bice Golf. Not all perils on contents. Okay? Does that make sense to you guys? Are we semi-communicating here? Silence on your part is I accept as approval. Now, let's talk about these other 3. The HO4. This is going to be our renter's policy. Here's how I remembered that. You ever see a sign that says for rent? FOR? What if they replace that with the number 4? For rent. That's how I learned that HO4 is for renters. For rent. If you're a renter and you're living in a place and the guy who owns a place, he owns a DP policy because he's a landlord, my stuff's not covered. I want my stuff covered. So I'm going to get an HO4. Doesn't cover the building, but it covers my stuff on broad form perils. That's good coverage. Okay? The only thing better is open perils, but it's a lot of stuff with that BB Bice Golf. Okay, that's my renter's policy. HO5. Now, that's something a homeowner would buy, but what makes HO5 different is we don't have a DP5. Now, what we did is we took open perils that were on the building of a HO3. We put open perils on all our stuff, on all our contents. Because I'm a big shot, right? I own an HO5. That means if my stuff, my contents, my TV set, I have such important stuff, TV sets, okay, computers, if they get lost, damaged, or stolen, it's all covered. All perils on my stuff, okay, not just BB Bice Golf. Let's move on. HO6. What is the HO6? Condominiums. Here's the easiest way to think of condominiums. Think of it like a renter's policy. Why? Because a lot of the condo that you own, you don't really own. You don't own shared walls, okay? The parts of the building are not really yours, okay? So the coverage is mostly focused on contents. Now, you're not a renter, so it wouldn't be an HO4. It's a condo coverage, okay? Broad and open form peril. Thank you for the question. Especially thank you for a question I can answer. I didn't say that. Okay, here we go. Broad form perils are BB Bice Golf. Whatever those letters stand for, they are covered and that's it. Open peril is all perils are covered except exclusions like war, nuclear bombs, and things like that. Arson that you do for yourself, those aren't covered. But anything else is going to be covered. More coverage in open than in broad form. Okay? Hopefully that helps. Now, when we get to the HO, which is an historical home, and the problem with the historical home is it could be valued. Oh my gosh. A Revolutionary War general built this home. It's got great historical significance. Okay. and it's got great value, but you can't sell it for any more than 125,000. We're going to insure it for 125,000 no matter how significant it is. And the H08 is sold on market value, what you can sell it for. It only has 8 perils. And the value on trees is only $250. There's not many questions on the H08. I would just try to remember it this way. It's really got the least perils coverage, and your trees are only covered for $250. But we don't sell very many of them, okay? And they're not very often on the test, okay? Let me move on. What's not covered? Oh, this is easy. It's the exact same stuff that's not covered on a dwelling policy. Ordinance of law, earth movement, power failure, neglect, war, nuclear hazard, intentional loss. A commonly asked question. Earthquakes aren't covered. Can I buy earthquake insurance? Yes, you can, but it's a separate policy, okay? But it's not covered on your policy. These are the things that aren't covered. Same in dwelling policies and homeowner policies. Maybe you want to make a list of them so they don't trick you with it. Now, once again, I got to know what the coverages are: A, B, C, D, E, and F. Look at this. This is, as we say in The Wizard of Oz, a horse of a different color. We have E and F, our liability coverage. That didn't exist in the DP policies. It's a major difference, a major upgrade to get a homeowner's policy, is it comes with liability. It's still primarily listed as a property coverage. If you want to know if we call it property or liability, look at coverage A. Okay, so let's just take a look at the coverages here. Fortunately, there's a lot of similarity with the dwelling policy. A is dwelling, exactly the same. B is other structures, exactly the same. C is content. Now, it comes with content because everyone that lives in that home has stuff, and it's going to be covered under contents worldwide. So if I take my $2,000 camera to Europe and I lose it or it gets stolen, it's covered because our contents are covered worldwide. Now we get where it's a little bit different. Do you remember in the dwelling policies, there was D and E, fair rental value and additional living expenses were different coverages on the dwelling policy. They were D and E. In the homeowner policy, we put the two together and call it D, loss of use. So let me just remind you what these things do. Fair rental value will pay me the rent that my tenants were paying me. Not usually that often in a homeowner's policy is that much of a value. Some people rent out rooms in their house. Most people don't. So it's who cares about fair rental value? Much more important to the landlord on the dwelling policy. But additional living expense is very important. I taught a class in Colorado where this particular class, half the people in the class had experienced forest fires and had their houses destroyed. And all of them used additional living expenses while they were rebuilding the house. Same thing in California. Those people have to go someplace. If they have coverage D, which comes on all homeowners policies, they will be able to get paid to stay in a hotel. That's what additional living expenses. It's just on the homeowners, we put the two together. It's not D and E, it's all D. And you have to remember that subtle differences so they don't confuse you. This additional coverages, okay? These aren't listed in A, B, C, D, or whatever, but they come in the policy. It's just extra good stuff, right? Debris removal. This is not landscaping. You're not going to pay you to clean your yard up. This is after a loss to get the stuff out of there so no new fires start or something. Lawns, plants, shrubs, $500 per tree or shrub. Removal to protect from other damage. This is kind of like debris removal, but sometimes we have to take stuff out so it doesn't get further damaged. Reasonable cost of repairs. This is not rebuilding the house. This one is repairs to protect the property. I imagine boarding up windows and things like that so we don't get further losses. That's also covered. Fire damage up to $500. This is additional coverage. If you want it important, if it's something you want to memorize, $500 or what it means to cost of repairs is just to protect the property. Put stuff like that on flashcards and read it every day so you get it clear in your mind, okay? Other coverages. Credit cards are up to $500. Glass, collapse. Hold it, Peter. You told me ordinance of law isn't covered. Now it's covered. I'm confused. Let me tell you something. I took this course. I didn't know anything about property and casualty, and I passed the test, and I didn't know why it was covered and not covered. Okay. It's different because ordinance of law that is covered is you get the house destroyed. You must rebuild it. The law says you must put a ramp in for wheelchairs or whatever the law is. The insurance company will pay for that because it's the law after a loss. Okay. They will pay for that. The other one, what's not covered, is if you're told to do something and you don't do it, the insurance company doesn't have to pay the whole claim. So yes, ordinance of law is excluded and it's covered depending on how you describe it. Now relax on this one and a lot of ones. The beauty of your test is since you don't get any essay questions, Tasha, you're taking the test tomorrow. You will never be asked to explain anything. I mean, I answered a lot of questions that I got right that if you asked me to explain it, I couldn't. But what I did is I learned enough to connect words. So they ask me a question, they give me the answer. I just have to find which answer answers that question. I don't even need to understand it. I just know that it's an exclusion. Okay. So if don't get hung up on too many explanations. Grave markers are covered. That's not just the graves you have in your backyard. Grave markers for you and your family are covered if they get damaged, okay? Now we get to the new ones. What makes homeowners different than dwelling is it has liability coverage E and F. What is liability coverage? Liability coverage is you damage other people's stuff or you damage other people's bodies and they need medical care, okay? So the insurance company and liability is actually going to be paying not the insured, but the person the insured damaged. It protects you from lawsuits when something happens that it's your fault. Okay. So if your dog who lives with you goes and bites a neighbor and they have to go to the emergency room and they get a bill for $1,200, we're going to pay that because you're responsible for your dog. Okay. Now we have E and F. E is the big one. Okay. That's the one that we're talking about a lot of money here. Okay. And you're liable. And remember, this covers the liability of everyone who's insured. So if somebody who lives with you injures somebody else, okay, please don't think of a car accident because that's going to be covered on the car insurance, but injure somebody else. Get a fist fight, okay? Break a guy's jaw. Your son breaks somebody else's jaw. And there's a lot of medical bills involved and physical therapy. I mean, it might be $10,000, $12,000. That's coverage E, okay? That covers the insureds when they're liable. Now, I may have given you a bad example because there's one, they don't cover if you break the law. So that, I'm not sure if that one's covered or not, but I wanted to get you an idea of who's covered. Coverage F is for small stuff. Do you see small amounts? If there's a medical bill that's a small amount, the insurance company will pay that under coverage F med payments. Usually it's $1,000 to $5,000 is the maximum coverage. And in this one, it just saves arguing over who's at fault. Just to get it, okay? So if that dog bite and then they don't pay that guy, he's teasing my dog, it's not my fault. If it's a small payment, $1,800, the insurance company is just going to pay it. Because you want to know something? It costs money to fight about it, lawyers and everything like that. So small payments, we're just going to pay them. Okay, it's just get it over with. That's what med payments is for. It only pays people other than the insured. Okay, I want to answer your question, but I want to be clear on this. So if my son sliding down the banister breaks his arm, he's not covered under med payments. This is a liability claim. It's for others, okay, not for my family. Let me see these questions. Personal liability, med payments to others automatically included in dwelling policies? No, no, no. There's no liability in dwelling policies at all. They cannot be added as an endorsement. You have to go and buy a liability policy if you're the landlord, okay? Because the coverages end, D and E on dwelling policy are just additional living expenses, fair rental value. There is no liability, and you can't add it to the policy. It just doesn't come with it. You can buy a standalone liability coverage. But if you have a homeowner's policy, it's covered. It's part of the policy, E and F, okay? Additional liability coverage. In other words, these will be paid in addition to the claimant that you injured. Claims expenses. Maybe there's a lawyer involved, you get sued or something like that. If you administer first aid to somebody, you can get reimbursed for that. Loss assessment of $1,000. Where I've seen this one on the test is, so kind of remember this example. You live in an area that has a homeowners association. And homeowners association, because repairs have to be made to the homeowners facility, so they assess everyone that lives there an extra charge, a loss assessment. They will pay loss assessments up to $1,000 on your homeowners policy. So you got claims expenses, first aid to others, loss assessment. Holy I have completed everything I have on dwelling and homeowners policies. Is this everything you need to learn? Of course not. Okay. It's the basics. But I really contend this. Know the coverages, A, B, C, D, E, different on dwelling than homeowners, but please know what the coverages are and what they're for. And you got to know DP 1, 2, and 3, the differences, HO 2, 3, and 5, 4s are renters, 6 is condos, 8's historical homes. You got to know that so they can't trick you, okay? Let's see what's on here. Excel has confused me. I've mentioned coverage L and coverage M for dwelling policies. Thank you for clarity. Well, one, I've never been a one. I don't take any credit for this. I'm a simple person, okay? I don't do well with complexities. I could never be a philosopher and get all those big words and figure them out and explaining it. To me, is what's this all about? So when I study, I try to make it as simple as possible for my little pea brain. And when I teach, I do the same thing. Now, some of you may be much, much smarter than me, and you're going to go on and have a career insurance where you're going to just know every little detail about these policies, and you will make a lot of money. At that point, I won't be able to talk to you because we'll be talking different languages. I try to make it simple because here's our goal, my friends. You're trying to pass a test, and Melissa and I want you to pass that test. Okay, that's what this is all about. So, on my last slide of the day is you got this. Be ready, which means you got to study. Okay, you can watch all the videos you want, but you got to get it in your brain. Okay, you should review your notes every single day. Stay on top of this stuff. Find and use all the resources that we've got for you, the videos, the quizzes, the exams that we can give you to help you out. Finally, relax. Don't put yourself under extraordinary pressure. Reevaluate what you have to do. Tasha, yes, I do. I do tutoring. How it works is you need to contact me through the Insurance Exam Queen and ask how that works. It's not free. Okay. I'm a very expensive guy. Well, what I try to do with tutoring, since you have to pay me by the hour, is just figure out where you're at and minimize the number of tutoring hours you need to make it more economical to you so that we can focus on what you need. And yes, I do tutoring. That's it. But it starts off with getting a hold of me and me trying to get to know you better. Okay, so we can help you out. Are there any other questions of me that see if I can answer them for you? Yeah, you can email me personally if you got my email address. I think you do. I didn't put it on a slide for today. Yes, there's a lot of videos available through Melissa, classes I've taught in the past, Kahoot games and stuff like that, which, we continue to do live, but a lot of that stuff's on video. You can just go and use Melissa. You get so much for your dollar from the Insurance Exam Queen. You have so much stuff available to you. Can I do a commercial in a week or so? For what? Yeti cups. So, yeah, that's what I do a commercial for. It's been a pleasure being with you guys. If you can think of ways we can help you, please let me know. Um, I'm not sure what's kicking your tail, but I tell it to stop. Peter, I'd like to thank you for the Insurance Exam Queen for helping me pass my life and health exam. You're more than welcome. If you want to just talk to me about ideas and stuff like that, you can write to me. Maybe I can put it in a chat box. See if I got figured out how to do that. In the chat box, I'm going to enter my personal email address. So let's see, did I send that to everyone? I think I did. Peter.lemieux@cox.net if you want to just ask me some questions or get advice on stuff. I'll be happy to try to help you. So I want to thank you guys for coming today. It's been a real pleasure being with you. I do live classes. However, this month I am going to go on vacation, so I'll be out of live classes for about 10 days. But I've got a couple more left before I go, and then I'll have more when I come back. If you want to write to me and give me stuff you'd like to hear in future classes, we'll see what we can do. But I want to thank all of you for coming, and I wish you all stay in good health, study, and like Melissa says on the slide, you got this. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.